there is no issue of bandwidth, and you are able to discuss Dr. Chidambaram's discourse smoothly and seamlessly. I once again welcome all the participants on DIYA Mumbai's platform, Gyan Sabha. This is a thought platform for thought leaders where people from different walks of life, different professions come for confluence of thoughts which are ultimately crucial for building our nation and in taking the youth of this country forward and invigorating them to do something for the country. That is the entire purpose of Gyan Sabha. And the basis of Gyan Sabha, or rather the basis of DIYA, Divine India Youth Association, which we'll shortly see by way of a documentary, is on the foundation of scientific spirituality, and we consider science and spirituality as two sides of the same coin and not something which exists in isolation. So we'll focus on that concept as well. And with the help of a documentary, we'll see what activities DIYA does and how youth from different professions, different walks of life have come together on this platform and are doing whatever they can, doing their bit in order to promote harmony, in order to create a conducive environment of learning and an environment which ultimately caters to the needs of the nation. Dr. Chidambaram would be here any moment, and we'll commence our talk shortly. So we'll shortly see a documentary about DIYA, the evolution of DIYA. To give a background, DIYA was conceived by former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and Rev. Dr. Pranav Pandyaji, who is the Chancellor of Dev Sanskriti University in Haridwar. At the second convocation ceremony of DSVV, both these thinkers met and they thought that there is a dire need to give a platform to the youth of this country where they can channelize their energies, where they contribute their ideas and innovations so that a confluence of ideas at a cohesive level emerge, so that these ideas are utilized in activities which are constructive and activities which contribute to the growth of the nation. So that was the background under which DIYA was conceived and formed as the youth wing of All World Gayatri Parivar, which was formed by Yugrishi Pandit Shri Ram Sharma Acharya ji. And I welcome Dr. Chidambaram, who has just joined us. We extend a very cordial and warm welcome to you, sir. And I think it is appropriate that we look at the documentary now and see what DIYA does and what is the objective behind forming this platform.
आवाज नहीं येता है याच्यावर.
Not heard.
Respected sir, cannot hear you.
Audio is not there.
Now we can hear.
किसी व्यक्ति के निर्माण का स्वर्णिम समय यौवन काल होता है, जिसमें वह आने वाले लंबे जीवन के लिए शरीर, मन और आत्मा का निर्माण और विकास करता है. इसी नींव पर अपने जीवन का मजबूत भवन खड़ा करता है और उसका भोग करता है. किसी भी राष्ट्र के विकास की आधारशिला और ऊर्जा उसकी युवा शक्ति ही होती है. यही उसका आत्मबल और इच्छा शक्ति भी होती है. इसीलिए कहा गया है, वीर भोग्य वसुंधरा. राष्ट्र निर्माण के ताने बाने में यौवन के ही धागे होते हैं. अतः जो राष्ट्र अपनी इस ऊर्जा का संरक्षण और संवर्धन करता है, वह विकास के उच्च शिखर पर पहुंचता है. राष्ट्र के कृषि, उद्योग, शिक्षा, चिकित्सा, तकनीक, राजनीति रूपी चक्के को यही युवा शक्ति, ऊर्जा व गति प्रदान करती है. यह राष्ट्र की रगों में बहने वाला गर्म खून है, जो उसे चैतन्य और प्रगतिशील बनाता है. भौतिक व आध्यात्मिक दोनों के विकास में इसी ऊष्मा का तप सक्रिय रहता है. इतिहास साक्षी रहा है कि जब किसी राष्ट्र की धुरी लड़खड़ाई है, युवा शक्ति ने आगे आकर अपने पुरुषार्थ से उसे सुदृढ़ बनाया है. आज अनेक प्रकार की समस्याएं जैसे नशा, फैशन परस्ती, पाश्चात्य जीवन शैली, आस्था संकट, भ्रष्टाचार, बेरोजगारी देश की युवा शक्ति पर आरूढ़ हैं. आज युवा शक्ति को आत्मबोध एवं अपने सांस्कृतिक गौरव से परिचित कराना समय की मांग है. वर्ष 2011 की जनगणना के अनुसार हमारे देश में 35 वर्ष तक की उम्र की 65% आबादी है. यह युवा शक्ति जिधर चल पड़ेगी, देश भी उधर ही चल पड़ेगा. अतः देश का भविष्य अब युवाओं के हाथ में है. यह युवा शक्ति ही राष्ट्र शक्ति बनकर राष्ट्र को समृद्धि, उन्नति एवं प्रगति के मार्ग पर ले जाएगी. युग ऋषि पंडित श्री राम शर्मा आचार्य जी ने युवा की अद्भुत परिभाषा दी है. युवा वो है असंभव जिसके शब्दकोश में नहीं, जो बाधाओं को चीर कर अपना मार्ग बनाता है, जो परिस्थितियों का दास नहीं, उनका निर्माता, नियंत्रणकर्ता एवं स्वामी है, जो भाग्य नहीं, अपने कर्म पर विश्वास रखता है, जो उमंग, उत्साह, जोश से जीता वो सुनहरे भविष्य के सपने देखता है, जो स्वयं सब कुछ करके गौरव अनुभव करता है और विश्व में कुछ अनूठा करना चाहता है.
असमंजस व अवसाद की स्थिति से गुजर रही युवा पीढ़ी को दिशा देने का काम एक चिंतक ही कर सकता है. वर्ष 2006 में देव संस्कृति विश्वविद्यालय के दीक्षांत समारोह में पूर्व राष्ट्रपति डॉक्टर APJ अब्दुल कलाम व श्रद्धेय डॉक्टर प्रणव पंड्या जी, जो विश्वविद्यालय के कुलपति भी हैं, मिले और इन दोनों चिंतकों ने मंथन किया कि युवा पीढ़ी को एक सृजनात्मक मंच देने की आवश्यकता है जो राष्ट्र निर्माण में सहायक हो. यहीं से दिया की नींव रखी गई.
I am indeed delighted to participate in the second convocation of Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya. I am very happy that this institution has been created with a motto of developing the divine culture, which is of utmost importance to us while we are on the path of transforming India into a prosperous, happy and peaceful society. We have the responsibility of transforming India into a developed nation before the year 2020. It is an endless journey through knowledge and enlightenment. Such a journey opens up new vistas of development or humanism, where there is no scope nor room for pettiness, disharmony, jealousy, and hatred or enmity. It transforms a human being into a wholesome whole, a noble soul, and an asset to the universe. God bless you.
जिस तरह एक दिया अंधकार को दूर करने की क्षमता रखता है, दिया भी इस देश के युवा मन से अंधेरे को दूर करने का स्वप्न लेकर चला है। ये प्रशिक्षण और कार्यशालाओं के माध्यम से शिक्षित, स्वस्थ, आत्मनिर्भर, विनम्र, संवेदनशील दिव्य युवाओं को तैयार करने के लिए प्रयासरत है, जिससे राष्ट्र निर्माण की रचनात्मक गतिविधियां चलाई जा सकें, दिव्य भारत का पुनर्निर्माण हो। इसका लक्ष्य युवाओं की क्षमताओं का विकास कर दिव्य भारत का निर्माण करना है, जिसमें व्यक्ति, परिवार व समाज का उत्थान हो। दिया युवाओं के सपनों में आदर्शवाद लाकर उनकी वैचारिक प्रक्रिया में सकारात्मक बदलाव लाने के लिए प्रयासरत है। वैज्ञानिक अध्यात्म के माध्यम से युवाओं में देवत्व की अभिव्यक्ति, दुनिया में सद्भाव के साथ सतयुग की वापसी इसका परम उद्देश्य है। इस तथ्य की महत्वता समझते हुए वो डॉक्टर कलाम के भारतवर्ष को वर्ष 2020 तक एक समृद्ध राष्ट्र बनाने के स्वप्न की ओर युवा शक्ति को अग्रसर करने के लिए दिया इस महान राष्ट्र के युवाओं के लिए एक आंदोलन है, जो मजबूत सिद्धांतों और यथार्थवादी लक्ष्यों पर आधारित है। जो लोग दिल और दिमाग से युवा हैं एवं जो एक नए भारत की परिकल्पना के हमारे स्वप्न से सहमत हैं, उम्र, जाति या धर्म की परवाह किए बगैर हमसे जुड़े।
मुझे विश्वास है गायत्री परिवार के दिया आंदोलन के माध्यम से देश के युवाओं में वो संवेदनाएं प्रकट होगी, सामाजिक जिम्मेवारियां प्रकट होगी, एक साहस की वृत्ति पैदा होगी, कुछ करने के लिए, कुछ कर करके दिखाने के लिए जीवन को लगाने की इच्छा होगी। देश के लिए जीना सीखो, इस मंत्र के साथ
इस आंदोलन से जुड़कर आपके जीवन में खुशी एवं एक नए उत्साह का संचार होगा। साथ ही अपने राष्ट्र को नई ऊंचाइयों तक ले जाने में आप गौरवान्वित महसूस करेंगे।
Once again, good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to DIYA's Gyan Sabha, and today's topic is Global Sustainable Development, Role of Science, Technology and Innovation. And we are absolutely honored to have with us Dr. Rajagopala Chidambaram today, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Shri, to share his thoughts on this topic. And before I invite Dr. Chidambaram for today's talk, we'll just reflect upon why do we need this topic, or why have we today conceived this topic to discuss. As we saw in that video, Dr. Kalam and Dr. Pranav Pandyaji conceived DIYA as a youth movement to propel the youth energy into nation building activities with a modern perspective. Now, Pandit Shriram Sharma Acharya ji, founder of All World Gayatri Parivar, which is a youth movement, DIYA, of which DIYA is a youth movement, reviewed spirituality more as a subject matter of science rather than a religious philosophy. For him, the science of spirituality is the ultimate domain of human psychology and all scientific knowledge. The material-based modern science and the science of consciousness were described by him as the two sides of the same coin. He elucidated the deeper aspects of deep ecology, cosmic order, esoteric events, and yet unresolved secrets of nature. Existence of extraterrestrial life, even scientific basis of astrology, etc. And eventually he propounded how every activity and every form of existence from micro-subtler to cosmic levels and the eternal cycle of nature reflect the order of an omnipresent soul controlling power, the invisible supreme consciousness which manifests itself in every vibration of energy and pulsation of life. So that was his vision of scientific spirituality, and he considered science and spirituality as two aspects of the same of the same coin. And we are extremely delighted to have with us Dr. Chidambaram today to discuss this important topic. And I mean, although he needs no introduction, but it's my duty to formally introduce him. Dr. Rajagopala Chidambaram is Padma Vibhushan, Padma Shri. Is known for India's nuclear program, Smiling Buddha, which was Pokhran-I, Operation Shakti, which was Pokhran-II. He has previously served as Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, as the Chairman of Atomic Energy Commission of the Government of India, Chairman of the Board of Governors, the International Atomic Energy Agency, that's IAEA, and Director of the Bhabha Atomic Research Center. We are extremely delighted to have you today with us, sir, to discuss this important topic on Gyan Sabha, which is a thought platform for thought leaders, where different people from different walks of life have come and have shared their experiences and have shared their vision in respect of how to take this country ahead. I welcome you, sir, and I invite you to share your thoughts with us.
To give this webinar talk on behalf of Gyan Sabha. And these webinar talks are an initiative, good initiative by DIYA. In fact, it's a fallout of the COVID. The number of webinar lectures have gone up very sharply after this COVID pandemic. Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear?
Yes, sir, we are able
I'm
to
able to
hear
hear
you,
you.
sir. But I
Okay.
request all the other parties
What cut off in
to be
middle
on.
sentence was all the others can mute their microphones. Okay. Now I remember being at a blood donation campaign organized by the DIYA Mumbai in Shakti Nagar some time back. As you saw just now in this beautiful video, which my very dear friend Dr. Abdul Kalam was also there. And in fact, he and Dr. Pranav Pandya started this or initiated the process of starting of DIYA. As you clearly saw, it is a youth-centric organization. And it has also its focus on disadvantaged sections of society, with emphasis on education, health, self-reliance, culture, and values. No, these are all education, health, self-reliance, value system. These are all parts of human development. And human development is a part of national development. And national development is a part of global development. And we want this development to be sustainable. The commonly used United Nations definition of sustainable development is development which meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of future generations. And in their definition, they also, and I quote, provide a framework for the integration of environmental policies and development strategies. So I thought I will speak today on global sustainable development, role of science, technology, and innovation. This is also a cultural organization. Toward the end, I'll show a slide what I think is a culture of science. Can I have I'll start my PowerPoint projection, please. See, the United Nations in 2015 developed these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And all these goals are, of course, interlinked. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, and so on. If a man is not poor, then hopefully he is not hungry. And then he's not hungry, then he can think of good health and well-being, and then quality education and so on. There was a meeting of the United Nations STI Forum in May 2017 for which I was invited, but I couldn't go there due to various reasons, and they wanted to focus on the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, that I have indicated here. And, I've been saying for 2 decades and more that everything is contained in what the United Nations calls this Human Development Index. Human Development Index. The United Nations defines it in terms of per capita gross national product. They used to define it in terms of adult education and life expectancy at birth. I've been saying for more than 2 decades that for a country like India at this stage of development, you need only 2: per capita electricity consumption and female literacy. I prefer female literacy to adult literacy because female literacy is not just a measure of literacy, but also a measure of equity and justice in that society. There are states where the literacy level is high. The difference between male and female literacy is low. And where the average literacy is lower, the difference between male literacy and female literacy is higher. And I've written on this, the female literacy part, that the higher the female literacy, the lower the infant mortality. The higher the female literacy, the lower is the birth rate. This is very important. And of course, the literacy levels in India are going up, and our birth rate is coming down as we have more and more working women or educated women. And they used to say 2.1 in a family is about the replacement level. And we are approaching that. Per capita electricity consumption is obviously related to per capita gross national product. The more electricity produced, the more is the industrial development, and more are the goods that you produce, and your gross national product goes up. But per capita electricity consumption, you introduce any electricity producing system. Electricity, by the way, is the most convenient form of energy. Any electricity producing system, part will go to industry, part will go to big towns, a part will also go to small towns and villages, which will get better drinking water, better primary health care. And all these have an impact on health parameters. And of course, the ultimate health parameter, which is life expectancy at birth. Just a problem. Just 1 minute. The slide I have to. No, the slide is. Move the slide. There are something which can improve decline. Next. Now I go. If you plot the Human Development Index against per capita electricity consumption, and of course I have made the scale, logarithmic scale, so that all countries can be accommodated in one slide. Otherwise, the developing countries will disappear near the origin. It is an S-shaped curve. We are somewhere in the middle, and all of us want India to go to the top of the curve. And to go there, you will have to increase our electricity production, maybe 6 times. And while we do this, and we provide energy security for the country, the growth must also reflect our concern for climate change. Global warming has started and it can have very dangerous consequences for future generations. So we have to, and we are concerned very much about climate change. In fact, the UN Sustainable Development Goal is clean and affordable energy. But I must also add here that achieving the Sustainable Development Goals is only the beginning for us. We want to become a fully developed country and later a knowledge economy. What is India of our dreams, particularly of the youth, from a major part of DIA? Is an India which is economically developed, scientifically advanced, and militarily strong. I've often said that national development and national security are two sides of the same coin. To be able to develop peacefully, you need security. Of course, security by itself is not meaningful. It has to be combined with development. We want, as I said, human development index to be high. We want an India where there's energy security and also other kinds of security, water, food and nutrition, health. All of them depend one way or another on energy security. And these securities must be sustainable. And all this is possible, sustainable, only if India becomes not just a developed country, but also a knowledge-driven economy. And we need high-quality leaders with an appetite for risk-taking. Nothing great is achieved unless you are able to take risks. Of course, after taking proper precautions and after making proper assessments. There's a very nice book actually a couple of books by John Brockman. This idea is brilliant. And the other complementary book is This Idea Must Be Killed. Number of people have contributed to that. And Philip Rosenweiss says, when it comes to technological breakthroughs or launching new products, it is better to act and fail than fail to act. See, this is the International Panel of Climate Change fifth assessment report. A new one is due anytime because they have been giving this annotation request. Should I approve or should I? And I decline. See that the International Panel on Climate Change says warming of the climate system is unequivocal. There are a few skeptics, but by and large, the entire scientific community is convinced that global warming is on us. And they want to cut it down to 2 degrees. For a long time, they've been thinking of that. During the Industrial Revolution, during this period 1880 to 2012, the warming went up by 1 degree, mainly because the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, they go and settle upstairs and then prevent the infrared radiation from leaving the earth. So the globe begins to warm. And what IPCC says, key measures to achieve mitigation goals include development of renewable energy, and India has a very big program, International Renewable Energy Centers in Gurgaon near Delhi, nuclear, carbon and storage, of course hydro is very good too, and the climate updates we have had since the AR5 report have only confirmed the above conclusion. In the short term, it may appear that countries in the northern hemisphere are not affected as much as those in the southern hemisphere. In fact, a Stanford study shows last year that global warming has increased economic inequality since the 60s. Countries like Norway and Sweden, they have prospered. while the economic growth in warm countries has come down. But everybody knows that this may benefit cold countries in the short term, but all countries will suffer in the long term. One of the consequences, the frequency and intensity of extreme events is likely to go up. Yeah. See, obviously, as the IPCC said, nuclear is important, and all of us are in the nuclear community. Of course, we know the importance of nuclear energy. It was a very interesting study by Richard Rhodes. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and it's published by the Yale School of Environment, and he's a neutral person. And he says why nuclear is so important. It generates baseload electricity, no output of carbon, very little. In fact, decarbonizing, if you want, you have to go for nuclear. The amount of fossil fuel which are used for ancillary work, is about 4 to 5%, as much as natural gas fired plant. Natural gas carbon dioxide emission is lower than that of coal, and is about as much as solar power. Second, nuclear power operates at much higher capacity factors than renewable energy sources or fossil fuels. Obviously, renewables are intermittent. When the sun is there or the wind is there, you get the energy. If you want to have a continuous power, you have to store it or use it for peak power. Of course, there are some other hybrid possibilities. But the last one, not many people know that the nuclear power releases less radiation into the environment than a coal-fired plant. Coal contains a lot of fly ash when it is finished, residual fly ash, and that contains plenty of uranium and thorium. And that is more than what the uranium, that is, or the radioactivity we release in the environment compared to this. See, of course, we are a developed country as far as nuclear is concerned. Of course, India is a very interesting country, economically developing, but parts of the system, S&T system, nuclear, space, some parts of defense, some parts of chemicals, they are very highly developed. In the case of nuclear, the former Director General of IAEA, Mano, he said that I would like to conclude by noting that India's remarkable success in the field of peaceful nuclear technology is an inspiration for many developing countries. Of course, India is also willing to serve as a mentor for other Asian countries that have recently joined the IAEA. You know, he also compliments, he's talking about our three-stage nuclear program, PSWRs, fast reactors, and thorium uranium 233 cycle. And in fact, I and Dr. Mohammad El Baradei were once discussing, former DG of IAEA. I was telling him, if you are able to close the nuclear fuel cycle with plutonium, the same uranium will give you, say, 50 times more power. If you close the fuel cycle and include thorium in it, the same uranium will give you maybe 600 times more power. So then he asked me, shall we call nuclear as renewable energy? I said, we will be more modest and call it near renewable energy, if you are able to successfully close the nuclear fuel cycle. And of course, our nuclear power plants are doing extremely well, high capacity factors. In December 2018, the Unit 1 of Kaiga broke the world record. 941 days of continuous operation started in May 2016 That could have gone on, but they then stopped it for regular maintenance. Of course, nuclear is not just electricity and nuclear weapons. There is practically no aspect of society where nuclear does not come in one way or another. Food preservation, producing new kinds of hybrids, treatment of cancer, diagnostics, water management. I'll show an example of how the isotope hydrology unit of Bach helped to improve the recharge in Uttarakhand and radiation processing and so on. Of course, India is now looking for international collaboration, equal partner basis. As I said, national development is related to global development. You can't cut yourself off. And in science, today's India wants international collaboration on an equal partner basis. For example, in the Large Hadron Collider, we saw the signatures of Higgs boson, the missing particle in the standard model. AFR is a member of the detector group which found this. Now, India contributed $40 million worth of equipment. See, as many of you know, there is an underground tunnel, 26 kilometers in circumference, 100 meters below the ground. When particles, hadrons, protons, that is, they are moving in opposite directions. And once in a while, they are brought together and they collide. When they collide, energy disappears. And you have to read the good old Einstein equation, E is equal to mc squared, wrong way. Mass disappears, energy is produced. Energy disappears, mass is produced. That's how they do high energy experimental physics. See, this proton is a charged particle bent by dipole magnets. But for focusing, you have to use sextupole, octupole, and decapole magnets all around the 26 kilometers circumference, maybe 1,800 of these. And all these were provided by India, built by an Indian company under the guidance of Bach and Arakat. Of course, fusion is the other form of energy. One day it may come. And so ITER. See, in the case of the Large Hadron Collider, where we look for the Higgs boson, of course, it does other experiments also. We also are an equal partner in the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, ITER, which is a multinational project coming up in Cadarache in France. And the main institution, of course, many institutions are involved in this. The main institution is involved in the Institute of Plasma Research, Gandhinagar, which is part of the DIYA system. And it's a unique collaborative project with members China, European Union, India, Japan, Korea, Russia, and the United States. And they had this meeting that Dr. Bernard Bigot, who is the Director General, more than, see, one of the main things we are supplying is this cryostat. This is the largest cryostat ever built in the world, in which the tokamak, as it is called, for magnetic confinement fusion, will be located 30 meters in diameter and 30 meters in height. Under the supervision of IPR, it was built by L&T in Hazira, and the base has been installed at the ITER in May of this year. Of course, like nuclear space also, that just doesn't launch satellites or put a rover on the moon or plans a Mars mission. But here also they do so many things. They can infrastructure planning, forest cover, decreasing, soil and water conservation. All these things. Even I know there is a project where they can tell the fishermen which way the shoal of fish is moving from their satellite photographs, so that the farmers are told on their mobile, they have an app there, that if you go in this direction, you will get a better catch of. See, India's needs, India is a very large country, which you sometimes forget. Its needs range from nuclear and space to rural. And when I was a PSA, Principal Scientific Advisor to the government, 2004, we had started this RUTAG, Rural Technology Action Group. And it's a demand-driven innovation strategy, demand-driven strategy. We look where is the demand and then take the necessary development and delivery, find the appropriate institution. Sometimes what happens in science is you have a solution and then we look for the problem. But here it's a demand-driven innovation strategy. RUTAG is centered in 7 IITs at present, but it has got links to many other academic institutions, R&D institutions, for example, BARC and DRDO. This is one I was showing you here. No, this is not the one I showed you. This is knowledge, daily innovation one can do by a technique called what these guys, Andrew Pokhran and Robert Shakti, called knowledge brokering. What they say is the best innovators use old ideas as the raw materials for one new idea after another. And we call that strategy knowledge brokering. For example, Thomas Fulton is supposed to have discovered the steam engine for the boat. But actually, the steam engine has been used in mines for 75 years before that. What Thomas Fulton did was an application for this. Now, I did some knowledge brokering when I visited the DRDO lab in Pune. They got an R&D lab. And they make these bridges when our troops are advancing into enemy territory. They make these bridges both for the foot soldiers as well as for the tanks. And they are collapsible bridges. The foot bridge is a very light aluminum alloy, which Jawan can carry on his back. At that time in Uttarakhand, I knew there are a lot of these ravines. Just then, this big flooding had occurred, which had affected also Badrinath temple. But this kind of ravines are there all the time. All the time, 10 to 15 meters. Very often the villagers have land on one side, agricultural land, and their houses are on the other side. And all those produce is carried usually by women, as you might have seen on their backpack. And they have to cross these ravines. See, some water is there, you don't know where you are putting your foot on. The least thing that can happen to you, you can sprain your ankle. But here, once at the time of that floods, the famous floods which had just happened, a couple of young women had been washed away in this village called Bagi in Uttarakhand. And so we built, I asked the DRDO to build this bridge. They did it. It was beautifully done. And Anil Joshi, who is my colleague under this UTAC program in Uttarakhand, lives in Dehradun. He runs an organization called HESCO, Himalayan Environmental Science and Conservation Organization. And in fact, they called me to Bagi. I did go there to inaugurate this bridge. From Uttarakashi, you have to drive 4 kilometers to reach the bridge. And they had a pandal. I said, now the journey is over. And since it was only an inauguration, I was wearing my chappals. I asked him, where is the bridge? He says, udhar hai, 2 kilometers away. You know, for the Pahadis, 2 kilometers is nothing. And you have to walk on the edge of the mountain to reach this bridge. And I was I'm not even wearing my tennis shoes. They said, no problem, we'll hold you. One in front, one in back. मैंने कहा मैं पैदल चल सकती, इतनी जोर से मत पकड़ो. We went there, inaugurated the bridge, and then my inaugural speech. They said, I said that मैं आपको एक नई कहावत बताता हूँ. पहाड़ी न हो तो पहाड़ी का हाथ अपने हाथ में. See, this is another one which we did, Palki. And we went to Jammu. I met the governor, N.N. Ora, at that time. And from there, he arranged a visit to Vaishno Devi. And he told the problem of the porters. The porters have a very difficult problem carrying these passengers. Some of them are not very light either. And he said, can you make this lighter and a better design? Dr. Chakravarti, he runs a very good design center in IIT Bombay. And he said, we'll take it up and redesign the whole thing. And I had gone for a convocation address in NITI in Mumbai. Director Dr. Karuna Jain also got interested. She's very much interested in occupational health. And so they did a very thorough study. This is unique example of a high-tech engineering design principles brought in to improve a commonly used product. And enhanced safety ergonomics was brought in engineering design. Weight reduction was there. And it's also more convenient for the passengers. See, what Karuna Jain and her colleagues found was there are 3 places where the occupational health is affected. One is the shoulder, where they keep these bars. And then there is a knee, because a lot of strain comes on the knee as they climb the mountain, and the back, because the back gets very much strained. So now, not only have they are very happy with this, the porters, not only has a new design, and the Vaishno Devi Shrine has distributed some 100 of these to the porters, but they have a harness on which they rest the bars. The bars are made of stainless steel, not wood. And now it has been a very successful. See, this is another one we started. You know, we missed the microelectronics revolution. So we decided we should not miss the nanoelectronics revolution. So we had an open brainstorming in the PSA's office. And we said, through open brainstorming, we'll select 2 institutions where we will, and Mr. Ravin Shauri was the minister, said, I'll give you 100 crores to be spent here. And 2 of these Center for Electronics and Nanoelectronics, have been set up in IIC Bangalore and IIT Bombay. They're doing very well. It's a national facility used by academic institutions from all over the world, all over India. Also, some countries, our developing countries in our proximity. Slightly old slide, maybe a couple of years old slide, 500 projects, 700 institutions. And also they have a very strong collaboration with MNCs and very good international collaboration, because this is one of the best facilities in the world. Indian National Knowledge Network, this again came from a proposal from the PSA's office. This is the biggest in the world research and education network in the world. It now connects more than 1,600 knowledge institutions in the country. Fortunately, we had experience with this Trans-Eurasian Information Network. And this was involved. This is with the CERN project. And it is now we have gone beyond that. NKN, which is run by NIC in MIT, the National Informatics Center, It has its own POPs or points of presence in Geneva, Amsterdam, and Singapore. So much data is moving now that this kind of thing is also valuable for big data science. There's a very interesting book by Yuval Noah Harari, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. This is a kind of a sequel to his Homo sapiens. And what he says is humans nowadays completely dominate the planet not because the individual human is far smarter and more nimble fingered than the individual chimp or wolf, because Homo sapiens is the only species on Earth capable of cooperating flexibly in large numbers. Practically, maybe ants are there, but they are very low level. But they are not. No other species is there. And communication, the foundation on which the cooperation is based. And now we have e-communication, which is represented by this. Well, there are other things India has to work on. You have to be very careful about cyber security. Some years back, in 2012 actually, the US Defense Secretary Leon Panetta warned that the United States was facing the probability of a cyber Pearl Harbor and was increasingly vulnerable to foreign computer hacks, would dismantle the nation's power grid, transportation system, financial networks, and therefore the government. So there has been much debate on whether it is a hyperbole or a realistic. Anyway, this is a warning. The problem is the more you connect, the more convenient it is. But then you become more vulnerable. The greatest security is in isolation. So you have to make a balance. Of course, we have firewalls, intrusion detection, and prevention systems, antivirus software, and so on. And then, of course, the problem is that the hackers, the bad guys are also getting equally smarter. And the more you connect, internet, you talked about Internet of Things, you talk about it, Internet of Things and services in the home. Switch on your microwave oven before you reach your house so that your food is ready in time to eat. But then if a hacker gets in, he'll switch it off when you leave for the office. Artificial intelligence, it is now there in every field from commerce and management to drug design and cyber security. Now we have supervised machine learning algorithms. They've been used for malware classification, spam detection. Of course, you have to guard against what is called algorithm bias. When we think of artificial intelligence, you usually think of intelligence displayed by systems of a type we normally associate with human beings. Can be robots, can be computers, slave manipulators, spark user slave manipulators when they're handling radioactive materials. Of course, you can also AI-based expert systems for specific talks. Maybe I'll show you a couple of examples immediately after this. Two approaches are there. As I said, analyzing cognition, but then the other one also is artificial neural networks. Mimic the structure and functioning of the brain in deep learning. In fact, neuroscience guys are also learning from artificial neural networks. Of course, conventional machine learning for some reason is called shallow learning. But deep learning, because able to recognize patterns in various types of computer representation, interpretation of. Yeah. Artificial intelligence, this is from my convocation I gave in Tamil Nadu Medical University in March, just before the lockdown. Diagnosing diseases is the most straightforward application of AI and ML. Because particularly in India, where the patient load is very heavy, then of course doctors from their experience see patients' disease pattern. But machine learning involving algorithms, you're given a large set of digitized data, And you know, breast cancer, it has been seen you can decrease the false positive results. I'm sure one day they'll, for COVID, avoid the false positive results. Drug development, we can look at the analytical processes involved and to identify good drug targets. Healthcare gradually shifted to a digital record keeping. Now, this is very, but then of course one has to take care of the privacy of data. Because we even have a robotic surgery in India now. But in all these cases, because of ethics and regulation problems, the final decision is made by the doctor. Robotic surgery also, the control will be with the surgeon. Of course, some people are scared of long-term developments in the AI field. They want international regulation of artificial intelligence. I don't think that's desirable. Stephen Hawking telling a BBC correspondent some time back, development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. I do not agree. Roger Penrose, equally famous mathematician, and many other leading scientists. See, there is a theorem called Gödel's incompleteness theorem. See, what it says really is, postulated in 1931, has not been disproved, that in any theory, physics or otherwise, you can only set up a set of axioms. All that you can do so far is contrary to these axioms. Mathematically, what Gödel shows is you cannot prove the theorem, prove the axioms, unless you go outside the system. And we cannot go outside the system. That's why Roger Penrose uses that Gödel's theorems to show that humans will always be smarter than computers and computer algorithms and any other cybernetic machines. Because you must also know what is meant by intelligence. Howard Gardner talks of varieties of intelligence. See, if you have a computer, linguistic, visual, spatial, logical, mathematical, speed, you can't beat that. But musical intelligence, no, can a machine sing like Bhimsen Joshi, who passed away just now? Bodily kinesthetic, can somebody bat like Virat Kohli? Of course, later he added naturalistic, spiritual, existential. Interpersonal, can two robots relate to each other like humans do? Intrapersonal, what is meant by intrapersonal for a robot? See, this is a beautiful review of Ramanujan's. Srinivas Ramanujan, as you know, was been super genius mathematician, died at 32. Like Vivekananda, 30s, Adi Shankara, they all die so early. So, Srinivas Ramanujan has also been called magical genius. What one of his biographers says, there are two kinds of geniuses. One kind of genius whose work, when you hear about, you feel that if I had been at the right time, at the right place, I could have done that work. Then he says there are very few whom he calls magical geniuses. When you see their work, you ask, how can anybody have done that work? Ramanujan was in that category, and what he says, Professor Ezekiel Dror, a man who for most of his life took counsel from a family goddess, modestly declared, Goddess Saraswati comes and writes the theorems on my neck, on my tongue. So whose theorems? You know, his famous handwritten, like our sutras, he gave the theorem without the proof. And theorems would at intellect, now what his Dror says is these theorems have been slowly being proved, still some not proved, at intellectually back-breaking cost. yet leave mathematicians baffled that anyone could divine them in the first place. And then he talks of intelligence in robots. So he says the current efforts to spawn robots with artificial general intelligence and beyond them, robots with super intelligence, he says it's just not possible. The phenomenon of Ramanujan is not only beyond the scales of intelligence, but above the concept of intelligence itself. And then this is the one, no enhancement of human intelligence opens a door to becoming a Ramanujan. And no algorithm is likely to produce robots with the abilities of Ramanujan. See, technology. I have been always saying there's a long time back, there was a futurologist, Alvin Toffler. He wrote, yesterday violence was power. Today wealth is power. And tomorrow knowledge will be power. Why did he say this? Violence being power is whoever has the best technology for inflicting violence is powerful. Wealth is power. Whoever has the wealth to convert knowledge into technology is power. And obviously knowledge is what leads to technology. So I paraphrase Alvin Toffler, also a long time back, technology is power. And because technology is power, technology domination is sought through intellectual property rights and technology control regimes. If you want India to be a global technology leader, India should be in the forefront of creating IPRs and make itself immune to technology control regimes like the Department of Atomic Energy. And how do you do that? You must develop self-reliance. As I said, India wants international collaboration on an equal partner basis. If you are building a complex system, some subsystems are available from a reliable source. Go ahead and put it into your system. But if anything is denied to you, including the proverbial wheel, you must have the capability to do it yourself. So when as Director Bark, I had defined self-reliance as immunity against technology denial in high technology areas. And as I said, we should seek international collaboration only on honorable, equal partner basis. And we must have the courage to be the first introducer of new advanced technology. Of course, we must assure itself viability, importance, safety, do you want it, all that. Use technology, foresight and all that. But if you are going to wait for somebody else to prove it for you, you will never become a technology leader. In fact, I have often said the so-called proven technology, of course, unless they are subjected to continuous evolutionary improvements, are often a synonym for obsolete technology. Since you are a cultural organization also, I'm coming to my last slide. And of course, my feeling is spirituality is there, religion is there, and science is there, and there is a boundary. Of course, scientists can be spiritual, but the first thing is the laws of science are universal. When you talk about Maxwell's equations, Schrodinger's equations, Raman effect, we are not worried about where Schrodinger or Maxwell or Raman, which country they belong to, which religion they belong to. And we believe in all those. Of course, after proving it, proving in the sense that nothing is against, no experiment is against all this. This leads to a kind of a universal consciousness. And this happens only in science, not usually found among the practitioners of social sciences like economics and politics. We also expect nature's laws to be stable. We expect the inverse law of gravitation, Schrodinger's equation, to be valid next year. Of course, our understanding of these laws change with time. We expect that the forces between atoms in an inanimate object the human body and a galaxy a billion years back are the same. What assures this? This must be an expression of some force, I believe, for many scientists. You can call it nature, you can call it God. My last slide is for the youth of the growth should not stop. All we want the young people in this audience on concentrate on how to accelerate this process. For doing this, you must maximize your talents. You need to be optimistic. You must have self-belief. You know, Swami Vivekananda said 100 years back, the old theology was, old theology was you believe in God. The new theology, you believe in yourself. That is self-belief. Character. Einstein. Einstein was once asked, what is it that makes a great scientist? That people think it is the intellect. They are wrong. It is the character. So you youth must be optimistic. You must be self-belief. You must have self-belief and you must have character. And you must have passion to achieve great things for yourself and your country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that scintillating talk. And I mean, you took us from artificial intelligence to technology to how to reach a common man. In fact, right from the SDGs to per capita electricity consumption, female literacy, and indicators such as an economically developed, scientifically advanced, and militarily strong India, along with uh, indicators of human development such as water, food, nutrition, security, etc. So it was a comprehensive session for all of us to know about these things, about the IPCC fifth assessment report you talked about. You talked about a brief history of tomorrow by Momo USN, and in particular the advancements India has made in the domains of international scientific cooperation, space programs, etc. So it looks like we are on the road to become what Dr. Kalam envisioned as a developed state or a developed country. So, I mean, all in all, we sort of connected to what you said, and these things are something which we as educated common men should reflect upon and think in our day-to-day lives, how much we can contribute in our limited sense, as you rightly said in your last slide. It's important for young people, young innovators, to take cue from these success stories, and so much that's happening in the space of scientific research. I mean, as common people, we don't tend to uh, read all of this which is happening, and we are sort of ignorant about this, but this was definitely an eye opener for us, and it fills us with a sense of pride to know that our country is making so much advancements. On that note, sir, I thank you so much for once again coming on DIYA's platform. As you rightly said that you've been to the blood donation camp, and it's a bond that will grow only, and then we seek your guidance and mentorship going ahead as well. Having said that, there are certain questions which our young friends in particular have asked, and which I very humbly would put to you, and if you could guide us on those questions. The first question someone had asked, sir, is in the context, and although you spoke of it in your second last slide when you said that whether you call it nature or you call it God, but the specific question is in context of the advancements science has made till now, and we have entered the 21st century. Do you believe in a supreme power, or you think there is something which sustains all the living uh, beings and the non-living matter which is there?
You see, it depends on the person's belief because there are so many wise people who tell you different things. So you have to decide. Personally, I believe in Advaita Vedanta, which is what I think Advaita Vedanta, this is the monism of Adi Shankara, monism. Of course, you can also believe in duality. So you have to see, this is something you have to make a personal choice. And of course, you can say Jnana Marga, but then you tell Bhakti Marga can lead to the Jnana Marga. Karma Yoga, if you read Bhagavad Gita, you are. So all these, and great scientists like Oppenheimer during the Manhattan Project, when you had that blast, atmospheric blast, and it has been given as a book written by Robert Jung called Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. He quotes Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna about, if I show you my Swarupa, it will be like 1,000 suns glowing. So you have to make a choice. This is something beyond a point, nobody can tell you.
Absolutely, and you spoke about open corners and the concept from the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna said that my Swarup is equivalent to 1,000 suns. And you spoke about Advait Vedant as well, sir, which ultimately boils down the question, who am I, is on an individual. It's an individual journey, as Pandit Shriram Sharma Acharya ji also put, that it's a journey of an individual to decide for himself or herself of what is the best route, best spiritual route to reach the same means, same goal rather. That was the first question, sir. Moving on, sir, you mentioned about RU tag, and you also mentioned about knowledge brokering, sir. And you mentioned, yes, sir, you mentioned Dr. Anil Joshi ji as well from HESCO. In fact, he came to the Gyan Sabha platform a couple of months ago, where he shared his thoughts on how can we sustain along with nature, and how can we ensure sustainable development. So, RU tag or knowledge broking, as you mentioned, sir, how can these models be replicated on a wide scale or on a countrywide scale, so that it can benefit maximum people?
See, knowledge brokering is one method. You see, firstly, it should be demand driven. That is the most important aspect in rural development, I think. You look at the demand. See, if you stay in Bombay or Delhi and go once in a while visiting there, you don't know what is the demand. That is why under RUTAG, we work with voluntary organizations led by scientists like Professor Anil Joshi. That is how we became friends. Anil Joshi in Dehradun, because he was a professor who gave up his profession and started rural development. So once you see, my weakness sitting in Delhi or in Bombay is at the grassroots, but correspondingly my strength is I can find out where the solution is available, and somebody with a scientific background can act as the interface between the two. That is the general method of technology development and delivery. Now you see, there are many methods. Knowledge brokering is only one method. The other one I have defined is concept transfer followed by innovation. Concept transfer followed by innovation. Sometimes you may have a very good thing going, let us say in Tamil Nadu, but the cost of transfer to, let us say, Jharkhand may be very expensive. So what you there is, don't worry about the total innovation. What is the concept? Whether it is a biogas plant or whether whatever the plant or the smokeless chula, find out what is it. See the way Tamilian woman cooks is different from how Uttarakhandi woman cooks. The chula there will not fit the chula there. But what is the concept? You do concept. This is what I define the phrase re-innovation. Concept transfer followed by re-innovation, looking at local needs, local raw materials, and using local skills. So there are a variety of methods which have been used by Ruta. Yes, please. 7 IITs have done a lot of things. For example, a pottery. Why do you use the hand to rotate the wheel? Sewing machine, we use the foot. And the foot gets tired much less than the hand. And the person, the potter, then has both the hands. So what the IIT Kharagpur had done was to foot operated pottery wheel. Next step was a motor operated. And that has made a lot of difference to the earnings, the money they have. So it depends on the local resources, local needs, local skills. Finally, it has to be demand driven and sustainable.
Right, sir. Given the pandemic and the forced lockdown that we are in because of this pandemic, and rightly so, there is a question that since our country is a country which thrives mostly on the rural population or where the maximum population is in villages. So, do you think online education can be a constructive means of ensuring that education is continued in such troubled times?
Firstly, education has to be continued. Absolutely no question of that. Of course, you can shut it down for a while. And if you can't reach physically, you have to reach through electronic. What we should be attempting is to make sure that it reaches the students. Maybe keep a class with one projector, with social distancing taken care of. Otherwise, of course, the urban children have a mobile on which the classes come. This is a palliative to under present situation, but is a technology which will going to remain. I think webinar talks, seminars, video conferencing will continue even after COVID goes away. And one day it will go away. We have passed through so many things. This will go. When nobody can tell exactly, but it's going to go away.
That definitely gives us some hope, sir. And which brings me to a burning question, which has invariably been a part of a lot of webinars and talks, and that is artificial intelligence. Now, we talked about artificial intelligence. So do you see it constructively supplementing human intelligence or human resources in a productive way if it is used in a controlled sense or it's used in a productive manner? And what could be that productive or limited use that we should be conscious of?
See, it depends on field to field. As I said, it is being used from commerce to cyber security. Used very widely in medical field. I see SK Sharma that is used by them. It has been used by Nuclear Power Corporation to develop an expert system. It provides decision support and also eliminates kind of faulty shutdown signals. So it depends on how you use it. Expert system, AI based expert system. Essentially, it is based on big data analytics. Big data analytics followed by machine learning. For example, we developed a flood warning system. See, after the Chennai 2015 drastic floods, I had requested Subimal Ghosh from IIT Bombay and a group of people to develop a warning system. See, so much data is there. Satellite data is there. IMD data is there. War data is there. Now they have developed a expert system for flood forecasting in Tamil Nadu, and of course, Tamil Nadu government was very cooperative, and it is the warning comes at ward level, can come at the ward level, and it is continuously updated. Of course, the warning may be withdrawn after a while, And then it has recently been completed also for Mumbai. I hope, because the Ministry of Environment obviously has to be involved. Then there is a Center for Coastal Research in Chennai, which was very much involved. And ISRO was very much involved. So practically every field you find artificial intelligence. Essentially, if you have data, artificial intelligence, essentially you are able to analyze data which is available for over a period and come to very quick advisory counts, suggestions, which can be made use of.
Almost brings us to the close of this session, sir. And my last question to you would be, and also in context of DIYA, because DIYA was founded on a fivefold principle of educated youth, healthy youth, self-reliant youth, cultured youth, and sensitive youth, in turn giving rise to a developed nation, a powerful nation, a prosperous nation, a happy nation, and a superior nation. And this was what was at the core of DIYA when it was envisioned by Dr. Kalam and Dr. Pranav Pandyaji. And in fact, I would like to invite you, sir, to Dev Sanskriti University in Haridwar once the pandemic is over, so that we can be benefited by your thoughts and your vision, sir. So in context of these objectives, which with which DIYA was formed, and considering that we have so many young friends, students with us today, what would be your advice to young innovators? What should they do, and what are the things that they should keep in mind?
See, that was my last slide. Firstly, you must be optimistic. That's the first thing, you must be there, optimistic. You must have self-belief. Of course, when I say self-belief, not only in yourself, but in the country, that this country is not stoppable. This is the slide I have used there. Then we want people with character, actually the value system. And that is what your thing, and all our culture has always emphasized on this point. I've said that sooner or later, India will become a developed country. But if at the same time we are able to preserve our cultural heritage, we will become a great country, or really restore to India the greatness it once had.
Absolutely, sir. And we hope that all of us, in our own limited sense, contribute to this journey of India becoming a great nation. What great scientists and our forefathers had envisioned, and we are on that journey. We hope it's just an impediment in form of COVID which has come, but I'm sure, as you rightly said, we'll overcome this and we'll cross this obstacle and take the next plunge forward. I once again thank you, sir, and I also thank you a lot of prominent scientists who are with us today. I can see some of them, such as Dr. Sharma Saab is there, and a lot of other scientists who are there. I thank you for your valuable time, for coming on this platform and gracing this occasion. And we had such a scintillating talk and discussion that it has given us many pointers of how to take these innovations forward, and at least to be conscious of what's happening in the domains of science and technology, which we otherwise don't read or we don't sort of lay emphasis on. So that was certainly an eye opener for us. And we have suggested some readings in our chat box on the topic of scientific spirituality, because that is what was at the core of DIYA when it was founded. That we develop a scientific temper, at the same time we give a new dimension to spirituality, which is not stricto sensu religious, which corresponds with scientific principles, and the confluence of science and spirituality is ultimately what thrives a human being to develop with ethics and with a sense of, as you rightly said, the word character. So Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya is doing exactly the same thing by ensuring man making and character building. So uh, with that note, I would once again thank you, sir, and everyone who's participated today. I thank them all, and I invite everyone to the next Sunday's Gyan Sabha as well. And it's on the same day, same time at 4:30 p.m. with a different speaker. Please do join us, and be a part of this confluence of knowledge which has developed so rapidly over the past couple of months. I would also like to thank all the organizations who supported us in Gyan Sabha, Octopus, Lotus Bard. Then we have the District 3141 Rotaract. We have the NSS unit of Nanavati Women's College, and we have Shankar Maharaj College of Agriculture, Amravati. We have Pokhran College with us, and we have Advocate Balasaheb Apte College of Law, Dadar, Mumbai, and Vidyanidhi Junior School, College for Commerce, and Junior College for Vocational Studies. So thank you everyone for supporting this initiative. The ultimate aim of which is to bring on a single platform people from different domains, people from different professions and thoughts, so that all of us are benefited with something which is instrumental in shaping not only just ourselves but also the nation. So on that note, I thank you everyone, and I would invite everyone to join us for a Shanti part, which is a collective prayer for the well-being